It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day. So join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Hey, welcome into Sports Talk, everybody. South Carolina Radio Network on a Wednesday night. It's going to be a great show for you once again. Thank you for joining us wherever you are dialed in around the great states of South Carolina. Life kind of getting back to normal now all across the state. I know a lot of you are still dealing with some very harsh things down your way because of the flooding, but I think by and large, waters are receding and life is getting back to normal as best that it can for you. We wish you the best, and we thank you for joining us tonight here on the program. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, 800-956-7266, the number. If you ever forget it, that's 800-956-William Perry. William Perry Bears, William Perry Clemson, 7266. Email, and that was by accident, Gamecock fans. We didn't design it that way. That's what they gave us. Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, @SportsTalkSC. So we head towards the what I think will be for South Carolina biggest game of the season.
Has to be.
A team that is beatable, a team that they can lose to, a team that they have beaten twice in a row, a team that they are tied with, I think, in the series.
Yes.
A team that you look at the numbers, it appears that running the ball against them could be difficult, but then again, maybe you don't try to run it because they give up a lot of passing yards. You can have some success through the air if your quarterback is healthy. Defensively, you got to worry about a great quarterback and some very good skilled people and a team that has put some yards up against you, but not a heck of a lot of points. You go back and look since Missouri and South Carolina started this series, that Missouri, I think the most points they've scored is 24 against the Gamecocks. This has been a relatively low-scoring series, USC scoring basically a top number of 31. So it's probably going to be a very close game, guys. It might come down to field goal kicking, last possession. I could see this one really being an exciting game and going right to the wire.
The weirdest thing about this, Corn, and I've been doing a lot of these, hits all day with radio stations, not just in Missouri, but here in the state. And the one thing I keep coming across is that there's just a dour feeling amongst the fan base right now of South Carolina. A lot of fans really don't know what to think. They've kind of seesawed back and forth from positivity with the Coastal Carolina victory, despair with the Georgia loss, back to happiness again after Vanderbilt's victory, and then just befuddlement based on what we saw last week against Kentucky. So I think a lot of people don't know which South Carolina team is going to show up this week, and they hope that it's the one that came up against Coastal Carolina and Vanderbilt because of the way that the season's been seesawing for them. But I'm not really sure what to see from South Carolina's perspective. I don't know what we're going to see. I don't know if we're going to see a healthy quarterback. I don't know if we're going to see the defense that was optimistic last year, but has been, I would say, vanilla this year. I mean, it just, from that standpoint, it's hard to handicap this game because I just don't know which Gamecock team is going to show up.
Well, you can handicap the game after it starts because both of these teams, in my mind, are front runners. If they start off well, they play a great game.
True.
If they start to lay an egg early, and then they start to look around for the other shoe to drop.
What was that after that? Okay.
And looking for the other shoe to drop, instead of just playing the game. If football players, if any players should have amnesia, as football players. If you make a bad play, hey, you got another play to go.
I just don't know how much mental histrionics Will Muschamp's had to go through this week, just because, again, it seems like after the loss to Georgia and the lost game against Marshall, he really had to kind of ratchet up some of the motivation after what was said by Derek Mason the week of the Vanderbilt game to try and get South Carolina to play on an edge. Now, they played on an edge last week against Kentucky, but they played so over the edge that they caused themselves to do stupid things like take undisciplined penalties and over-pursue.
Listen, if you had to beat that drum to beat Vanderbilt, that's hocus pocus to me. I mean, South Carolina shouldn't have to rely on something that the opposing coach says to get fired up, play any SEC.
But look at the output.
Vanderbilt. But they did play a better game against Vanderbilt, but you still have to consider who the competition was. I mean, actually, I give them a lot of credit for keeping a pretty good Vanderbilt offense in check and then having a good offensive game themselves. But that does not make up for the egg they laid against Kentucky, especially in the first half. That's what they've got to recover from and rebound from, and that's what they've got to show their fans for a home game. And this is a point of the season now. If South Carolina is going to make some hay to have a good year and put themselves in position for a decent bowl game, they've got to do it now over the next month because they've got a string of home games and an open week. This is a time to make some noise.
They can't worry about a bowl game. They got to worry about 60 minutes on Saturday is all they need to worry about.
This is a real fork in the road game. This will really decide whether or not you have made progress and you're moving forward, and you're going to set forth a groundwork where you're going to win 8-9 games a year, or this is going to show you that you've taken a step back. And if you lose this game, there's really not much out there that's left that's winnable if you lose to this team.
Well, I think if they lose this game, they mindset-wise and support-wise, it'll be tough going up against Texas A&M the next week against a pretty good Texas A&M team with just the kind of quarterback that drives them crazy. Elusive, can throw, can run. So that's why I feel like, and I said this on Monday, this is South Carolina's biggest game. Got to win. Clemson heading to Wake Forest, and yes, I know Wake Forest offensively can do a lot of really good things, but I don't see a freshman quarterback having much success, having the kind of success he's had at this point in the season. I can't see that freshman quarterback having a really big day against this Clemson defense. They're going to come at him with a lot of different wrinkles and pressure off the edge and things of that nature. Clemson just has to really, keep an eye on Dortch. Don't let him run free. And I know they've had some issues from time to time with some coverage, and they have some injuries back there. They got to keep an eye on him because he's capable of making big plays against you. But having Trevor Lawrence back healthy and ready to go, I think now you're a game removed from the controversy and the shock of everything that went down last week. Now you got a chance to kind of settle in and really see what it's going to be like with this new guy at quarterback.
The biggest issue for Clemson this year, in my mind, is we haven't seen them get the pressure, at least until the latter stages of the Syracuse game. We haven't seen them get the pressure that this defensive line has been known for. They haven't gotten home. They haven't created sacks, and they need to create sacks in order to make up for their deficiencies on the back end. We know the secondary is a weakness of this club. We've known it ever since they broke camp. But the thing that was supposed to cover up the weaknesses of the secondary was getting sacks. They finally got them against Syracuse late in the game with Xavier Thomas and a couple other guys stepping up to the plate, but they need to get more of those, and this is the game where they need to pad those numbers.
Well, here, the key to me is I don't think the way teams play Clemson, they can get sacks because it's 1, 2, 3, and the ball is out.
Yeah, it's hard. Remember they play 3 option teams that don't throw it all that much, so you're not going to get sacks.
Now, what I'd like to see Clemson do, and what you can do against teams that do that, is see more passes batted down at the line of scrimmage. But it takes an interesting guy to have to engage in a block and then get himself up the bound.
Especially because you get punched in the ribs when you get your hands up like that.
All right, coming up for you tonight here on Sports Talk, and we have opened up those phone lines. I know that a lot of you tried to get through Monday, Tuesday, couldn't get through. Now's a good time to jump on the lines, 800-956-7266. We are here to take all your comments, your questions, your praise, certainly praise. And if you can think of something to criticize besides Will, we'll take that as well.
Really, I just want to hear a Gamecock fan who comes in who doesn't have fully despair. I want hopeful Gamecock fans, because I've not heard a lot of hopeful Gamecock fans. I've heard a lot of snarly, smarmy Gamecock fans over the past couple days.
Well, you got to remember.
What kind?
Snarly and smarmy. What's wrong with that?
No, those are compliments.
Yeah, you have to figure.
Somebody calls me snarly, I take that as a compliment. That's a badge of honor.
You have to figure when you watch on the board.
You said swarmy or smarmy?
Smarmy.
Swami.
No,
Smarmy. Swarmy. Now, here's the key, though. Gamecock fans love misery. Because remember, when they were winning, they were complaining.
Missouri comes in this weekend.
They're complaining about kickoff. They're complaining about kickoff time.
All right, Hunter Renfrow, we'll hear from him. Erstwhile quarterback for the Tigers. Zach Bailey, he's an offensive lineman, and that's it. We'll hear from him as well. M&M boys, too, and we'll be back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Got a full week of football across the state. We're going to go around the horn with the M&M boys, Corey Miller, Will Merritt. It's also an SC Wild night.
SC Wild.
Second hour of the program, we'll be talking with Captain Billy Downer from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. We want to hear from you, 800-956-7266. This story out of Georgia is really troubling that we got before we come on the air. First baseman on the Georgia baseball team has been reportedly dismissed from the baseball team after he was heard yelling racial epithets directed at Bulldog quarterback Justin Fields during Saturday's victory over Tennessee. Apparently, according to the incident, he was actually around some players who were like trying to get him to calm down. And the director of athletics, Greg McGarity, basically said, we are aware of that reported incident involving the conduct by one of our student athletes, and they have dismissed him. And he's a good player. I mean, 273 average, 13 homers, 60 RBIs. And you know, it's just something where stupid thing.
What is it they say? You can't teach stupid.
Yes.
And that is just flat out stupid. What was he thinking? Was he drunk? Had he been
He
drinking?
might have been sipping.
I mean, come on, but he's an athlete. Number one, you can't be doing that, especially at a football game. And number two, you're going to harass. You
can't be doing that as a human.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying you going to be harassing one of your own colleagues on your own team, not to mention a highly rated, highly recruited, highly respected quarterback on your own team. That's just stupid. 800-956-7266. Want to catch up on the rest of the state, and then we'll get to your phone calls as we keep an eye on the other teams around South Carolina. So, of course, you know, Clemson's undefeated, and South Carolina's got a couple of wins. Coastal lost at Troy. Tough loss for them, but Troy's very good. Coastal 3-2. They've kind of been the wanderers, having been away from campus for a long time. They're off this week. SC State still looking for that elusive first win. They were off last week, and will play at Morgan State Saturday. Furman got a win over Western Carolina last weekend. Furman is off this week. The Citadel, a loser at Towson. 2-2 are the 1-3 are the Bulldogs, losing that game at Towson. Towson's very good. You know who their quarterback is? Joe Flacco's brother.
Oh.
Or son. I think it's his brother. I think Joe Flacco's old enough to have
Steve Flacco.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a loss for the Bulldogs. Wofford beat Gardner-Webb.
Tom Flacco.
3-1. Of course, they remained nationally ranked. They play at UT Chattanooga. Charleston Southern beat Hampton on the road. Plays at Savannah State this week. Presbyterians won 2 in a row. Is off this week. Newberry has won 3 in a row. Could very easily be undefeated. And will host Lenore Rhine Saturday.
They haven't lost since we've been up there.
That's correct. Benedict is 3-1. Beat Central State on the road. Will play Virginia Lynchburg at home this week. North Greenville, a winner at West Alabama. That's a good win. Against West Alabama. Will play at West Georgia this weekend. Allen was a loser at Clark Atlanta, off this weekend. And Limestone still looking for its first win with a tough loss to Mars Hill last weekend. Will play at Carson Newman this week. There you go. What's happening around the state. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. And we go to the phones. Brian Leonard, of course, taking your phone calls and dialing up the hits here on Sports Talk. Rich, wake up, Brian. There you go. Okay. Just making sure you're not dozing back there. You have a long, he works a very long day.
Yes.
He's a star of Columbia's #1 rated morning show, at least in my car. Rich in Somerville, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. How's it going?
Good.
What's up, Rich?
Good. So I called this last Friday. I was on the way to the game. I do the voice of Somerville up here with the Green Wave, which you guys are going to have one of our guys, it sounds like, on the air with you guys tonight, Zach Bailey, which is exciting. He's a good kid and represents the area real well.
Yep.
But also, of course, I went to Socastee High School. So you guys have Hunter Renfro. Of course, his dad was one of our baseball coaches up there. And just nice to see so many guys. And it shows you how small the world, the sports world is. We all grow up, and it's, to me, the original fraternity of, that athletic fraternity is real strong. But then you guys talk about the Gamecocks. And it's interesting to me because I said this on Twitter this week, and it is the fact that it seems like he's taken Kentucky somewhere that they've never been before, because I've never heard a football fan of Kentucky talk about national championships, and whether it's facetious or not, it's kind of neat to hear a Kentucky fan talk college football. That's a basketball school in the past, and you've seen what Duke's been able to do with Cutcliffe. So, I mean, it can be done.
Well, let's talk about – hang on one second. That's a good question. Let's talk about Kentucky's path to a football national championship.
Oof.
Well, they're undefeated right now. They're 13th.
The Yellow Brick Road.
They got Texas A&M on the road. Of course, they got to win everything. So they beat Texas A&M on the road this week.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to boost them. Then they get Vanderbilt at home. That's a win, let's say.
We go to Missouri.
They go to Missouri. That'd be another good road win. Then they get Georgia.
That's the big one.
That'll be the big one. That's going to say a lot about the East. If they beat Texas A&M, they get Georgia at home, undefeated.
And then there's nobody left.
Then there's nobody left.
At Tennessee, home Middle Tennessee.
And then they will play in the SEC championship game against Alabama.
Yeah.
And that'll be that.
See, that's the thing.
And then they got the rivalry game against Louisville.
Like I said. He said that already. They got nothing left.
Yeah, they got nothing left. Remember, it's funny. Matt Connolly in the state newspaper said the funny quote. He regurgitated the quote from Mike Petrino, where he said, "We're going to be better on offense without Lamar Jackson. They were first in offense in the ACC last year. They are dead last in the conference."
Well, you know where he got that from. You know who his secondary coach is? Lorenzo Ward. Yeah. And you know what Lorenzo Ward unfamously said, or infamously said, at USC the year after Jadeveon Clowney and Devin Taylor graduated?
Better on defense.
We're going to be much better on defense. You watch us. We're going to be. We're not going to drop off at all.
Puma Pass has been more like a a scared feline instead.
Anything else for us, Rich?
Well, I just wanted you talk about the Gamecocks, and it is interesting because I'm not sure which one of you guys was saying, but Carolina's going to complain either way, and I think that's just college football. I mean, it's interesting how Gamecock fans will point out Clemson, and Clemson fans will always say, well, Gamecocks are this, that, and the other. But, if you're a Gamecock fan, don't get worried. I mean, it does kind of suck that Kentucky used to be our homecoming team that we knew we were going to beat year after year. But that game's behind us. Don't let two games beat you twice. I think every coach tells their team that after a loss. But, I mean, there's a kid behind this kid. If Big Boy Bentley can't do it in the big games, and he hasn't, to me, proven that he can handle the pressure at a big game. He's known for throwing interceptions coming out of the gate, whether you like him or not. That's what he does. But this kid behind him, Joyner, if they can give him a chance, I'm telling you, I've watched him for 4 years down here in Tulsa. Give him a shot. I mean,
they say he can't throw. They say he can't throw. I mean, and they, I know he had great numbers at Fort D, but apparently at Fort D, he would run around. Well, he would run around and escape the pressure,
break off routes,
and then throw 50-yard bombs to people that were wide open. But in terms of the passing game, the more complex passing game you face in college, where you got to stand in there and read your routes and fire the ball across the field, apparently that's not something that he can do real well right now. But there are other things that he can do well where you might be able to work him in.
Again, I'm not trying to pigeonhole the carry-on Joyner, but it's game 5 of the season. If there was a package that they were working on for him, and they say there's a package that they're working on for him, I would like to think we've seen it by now.
Let's talk about LSU's path to a national championship. Now, theirs is not easier. However, with the teams they have left to play, if they were to win out, my goodness, they'd have to be in the playoff.
Oh, yeah.
Win at Florida this week, then Georgia at home, then Mississippi State at home.
Yeah,
win those 3 games at your break, then you're 8-0, and then after your open date, you get Alabama at home. My goodness, what kind of night is that going to be?
They're both off buys.
Death Valley.
They're both off buys.
The key point that we found out about LSU with the transfer is apparently LSU only needed a quarterback who wasn't holding a pistol to his foot. This guy's not been spectacular, but he has not made many mistakes. And LSU's defense and their special teams are stellar, and they're winning.
Well, the other thing, too, that I find interesting about Burrow is that, very much to your point, he hasn't necessarily felt the threat of anything behind him. He decisively won that quarterback job, and he's not asked to do too much. I think so much about what LSU has had trouble with is they've very much had the same problem that South Carolina has. They've had no identity. They have a very defined identity offensively, and it's carried them through.
And this quarterback apparently has a chest.
The chest.
Yeah.
All right, 800-956-7266. Lines are open. Give us a call. We'll be back.
It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Why did I say stupid over the air?
You might have.
Okay.
You shouldn't talk about pro like that over the air.
No, he's talking about himself.
Oh,
Wow. Okay. Everybody just get up. Everybody just calm down. Calm down.
hey, I see they announced the salaries today, the 2018 salaries for college football coaches.
I was going to say for us. No, not really.
We don't exactly make this list.
No, they didn't.
Nick Saban, total salary $8.3 million. Jeez.
Did you see all the extra stuff that Dabo got?
$33.6 million buyout. Urban Meyer, $7.6 million. Jim Harbaugh, who's not really earning his money yet, $7.5 million. Jimbo, $7.5 million. Gus Malzahn, $6.7 million. Kirby Smart, $6.6 million. Here's Dabo, $6.5 million.
But
and a $35 million buyout.
The Independent Mail did this story, and which is I find fascinating. The Greenville News actually did this story.
They're the same thing.
Of all the different benefits he gets outside of his contract, one of them includes a condo with an estimated value of $250,000 to $300,000 based on the fact that he did an endorsement for him, and also he has a security system in his house and all kinds of other stuff. And basically, it puts his total compensation in around the $9 million mark of things that basically aren't necessarily reported as salary, a little extras that are around there.
It's good money. Now this says, I don't know if the website's acting up here or not, but further down the list, it's got Will Muschamp at $8.3 million. Is that right? And it's got Mark Richt at 8.3 and Justin Fuente at 8.3. This might be a malfunction of the website.
I think that's
because they had him in decreasing order. Then all of a sudden it jumps up to 8.3. Like 8.3 is stuck by all these coaches. Yeah, I'm looking at the USA Today. Look, are you seeing the same thing?
No, I'm not. I'm not seeing the same thing you are.
What are you seeing for Muschamp?
I'm pulling it up right now.
I mean, I'm sure he'd love it to be 8.3.
I think it's more like 3.8, honestly.
Yeah. All these guys are listed at 8.3. So anyway, I think they're having an issue. Let's go to Hank in Columbia. He's worth $8.3. Welcome in, Hank. How are you?
Doing fine, Corn. Just was calling to comment on a couple of things you said in that last segment. I love Muschamp because he's pretty, I think he's a pretty good coach. But just because we haven't seen certain things doesn't mean that they're not able. I saw that Jordan kid play, and I said he can throw the ball. I think his issue is the complexity of the college game versus what he did in high school. But two things, Corn. You remember we had when Blake Mitchell was struggling. Remember when they brought in Savell Newton, which I'll describe as about what he did for about 4 or 5 games. His athleticism until Blake Mitchell got it together for Spurrier. And the second thing is, we've seen before, you remember the first 4 games or 5 games of Alshon Jeffrey's career at Carolina?
Yes.
He was sitting on the sideline, and they kept on saying, well, it doesn't look like he practiced well. We're not sure what he knows. And everybody else was saying, well, obviously he's not that good because he could play. And then in the Kentucky game, they took him in. And remember what that game looked like?
It was a showcase.
and then that was it. So, I don't think he's your person. I think, but he would be a good person for change of face and spot duty there.
$4.2 million for Muschamp.
4.2. That sounds more like it.
21st in the country. He's behind David Shaw, ahead of Mark Richt.
Going back to your comment there about Alshon and breaking through. So you're kind of equating Dakereon Joyner at quarterback and his potential to what Alshon had as a wide receiver, and once he got his chance, he just blossomed?
No. Just saying that, sometimes, we heard that before where River Spurrier was always famous for saying, there's some guys that, for whatever reason, when you put them in front of the lights, they perform. So I think he's still going to be a spot duty guy because, our starter is the 3-year starter, and he's going to be the guy.
What year was that? Was that 2011?
Oh, was it 2011 or 2012? But you remember those first 5 games, what Will was saying, Logic was saying, was the same thing people were saying about Alshon when he didn't touch it. Remember, he didn't even touch the field. He's standing on the sideline and his offense is struggling.
I'm looking at the stats from that Kentucky game of 2011, which the Gamecocks won 54-3.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days if you're a Gamecock. And look, I'm just going back here and looking at the offensive talent. Marcus Lattimore rushed for 102 yards, NFL guy. Bruce Ellington rushed for 61 yards, NFL guy. Brandon Wiles rushed for 45 yards, NFL. Connor Shaw rushed for 42, NFL. Demir Bird, 21 yards rushing. Of course, he's a receiver, NFL. Dylan Thompson had a little taste of the NFL. Shaw passed for 311 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Here's the thing that
Alshon Jeffrey, 6 catches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ace Sanders, NFL, 5 catches for 53 yards. That was some really good offensive talent that South Carolina had.
I'm trying to understand where people are coming from. It's not like there's this conspiracy against Dakereon Joyner. Like they're not holding him back. If they thought he could run the offense, we'd see him. They obviously don't think he can run the offense. Like I don't know why people. This is a mental block. Like I'm sorry.
Here's the key: if you had a running quarterback and they were losing, they want a guy to stand in the pocket.
Exactly. They just want
to change. You got a guy that stands in the pocket, and now they want to change.
Well, it's weird.
But I thought his comparison was good about Savell Newton coming in and just giving Blake Mitchell time to take a breather, watch what's happening on the sideline, and then coming into play. I can see that comparison.
I mean, there's an appetite for the South Carolina fan base, and I get it. They feel like they've seen their share of Bentley. They know what Bentley's ceiling is. They feel like they can see his ceiling.
That was the game that he was referring to because Alshon was drafted in 2012. That game was in the 2011 season. So that would have been the game that he's talking about. That would have been that Kentucky game where he got his chance, I guess.
That was the first game after Garcia was shown the door, wasn't it?
No, hang on a second here. Hang on.
Chris says on Twitter.
No, what am I saying? Hang on. I'm totally wrong. 2009 was his freshman year.
Okay, yeah.
So it says here, caught 5 passes in his first 5 games before making 7 catches and 3 touchdowns against Kentucky. So it's 2009. That was the game I was citing was from his senior year.
Chris on Twitter is saying quarterback is totally different than wide receiver. Pump the brakes on Joyner unless you have a specific package for him. And of course, this is a reaction to the basically comments from Will Muschamp that I think were throwaway comments that basically said, oh, well, Dakereon was running with the ones for a couple of packages during practice. And I'm just like,
I mean, what's wrong with taking a look at him with the ones? You never know when you might need him.
They need to look at him at the one just because of the fact that if they'd had their quarterback injured last game.
Red alert. I bet you Hunter Renfro's taking some snaps with the ones at Clemson because
he has.
He's got to be that third guy, that emergency quarterback in case something continues to happen. All right, thank you for your call. 800-956-7266 is our number.
You bring up an interesting point because, as I said before, I still say a light came on for Clemson's coaching staff with the injury. Sometimes you discover stuff when you have to undergo a problem or two. But if you're Clemson, do you throw it all over the lot, or because Wake Forest is a rhythm offense, you just run it down their throat and have their quarterback standing on the sideline for 3/4 of the football game?
It's in my mind, they found something when it came to Syracuse last week and their ability to run the football. But the one thing I do think that they need to prove is they need to prove that they can get Trevor Lawrence in the kind of rhythm where he is comfortable in a game. And I think that second play where they had the fumbled exchange just completely discombobulated him, and he was never right from that point on.
Well, they're going to have a chance against Wake Forest because, again, it won't be a defense that should throw up a major roadblock for them. They should be, especially running the football. Again, I could see ETN, if they wanted to make him the workhorse, I could see another 200-yard rushing game from this guy, and that's
Feaster with 100.
Going to get people talking about Heisman hopes and all that kind of stuff, which he'll be well behind in that race.
Guy on our Periscope says it's more than this year. Muschamp hasn't put together a good offense in the 7 seasons he's been a head coach.
That has been the albatross around his neck since he's been a head coach. All right, 800-956-7266. We'll have more in a moment.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Back here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, Hunter Renfrow will play some of his comments on the crazy week that was in the Upstate Plus Corns recruiting report. More of your phone calls, 800-956-7266. M&M boys also come your way at the top portion of the second hour.
Okay, let's head to the PD. And Gandy and Dylan, welcome into Sports Talk. How you doing, sir?
Hey, we're doing good. I just got a comment about the quarterback situation. I mean, I'm not a big football guy, but the quarterback for South Carolina is about the second stringer or whatever his place is on the roster, the one that's not getting to play that much. This is what the guy for Clemson did when he came in that game, and he was like probably in the same boat. How do you explain that? So he basically, I think, won the game for him. And, you know, when Lawrence went out again, they brought in the, what was it, second or third stringer. The guy came in off the bench.
You comparing Chase Bryce to the Kerryon Joyner? Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, no, like comparing, they were both in the same situation. They're not capable of running the team because they're not starters.
Well, Chase Bryce, and thanks for your phone call. We're going to let you go because your cell's kind of bad, but appreciate it. Chase Bryce runs the same offense, can run the same offense, can do the same things in terms of running the offense that Trevor Lawrence does. They don't have to change anything. So he practices behind Trevor Lawrence. He was practicing behind Kelly Bryant, and it's just passed down between those three. The Kerryon Joyner apparently can't do all the things required of Jake Bentley in the structure of the Gamecock offense currently. If he were to become the quarterback for one reason or another, they'd have to change some things to fit his skills because he's more of a runner than he is a passer. Now, it's not to say he couldn't be successful, but they would have to change some things.
The way that it's been explained to us is they basically can run the same offense under Michael Scarnecchia. But if it comes to Kerryon Joyner, they have to basically take a portion of their offense and develop a special set of plays, don't know how many it is, but around what the Kerryon Joyner is good at and comfortable doing. Now, they do that for all the quarterbacks in their arsenal. But the fact is, the percentage of what they run offensively that the Kerryon can run is not necessarily the entire echelon of what they can do.
Yeah, and of course, the Kerryon Joyner probably could have played with Clemson
as an athlete.
No, with Bryce, because let's face it, Bryce was handing off. Those running backs won that football game.
But Clemson didn't want him as a quarterback. They wanted him as a safety, and he wasn't interested. Any team that recruited him for a position besides quarterback.
You missed what I'm saying.
No, he's talking about
I'm saying
Bryce didn't win them the football game.
With that game,
oh, yeah.
Anybody stood back there, they were handing off the running back.
Well,
ETN had the great game, but he had to pull it out of the fire.
Yeah, the two plays that he made with the throw and then the scramble run were the two big ones there.
Well, the throw was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, under that pressure, in that situation, the throw was incredible.
Probably one of the best throws, probably one of the 5 best throws that Clemson quarterbacks made this season.
Ben in Myrtle Beach, welcome to Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How y'all doing?
Good.
I want to talk about the Gamecocks a little bit. The special teams, they just made some stupid plays down there. We had a punt, and we had it covered on the 1 foot line.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes Charleston in there diving at the ball with no Kentucky players around it and not get put in the end zone. So they get it on the 20-yard line instead of the 1 foot line. And then on blocking in the back on a punt return, brought it way back. We had a couple of those.
Missed a field goal.
And missed the field goal. And I think that was caused for not blocking the guy rushing from the left side of Kentucky line, left end, because he was right on top of him and made him pull it out of the way.
Yeah.
But
it was a comedy of errors.
Better in that.
It was a comedy of errors in the first half. Not only that, besides the special teams. I mean, you talk about the drop passes.
Yeah.
You talk about A.J. Turner stumbling when he's wide and open in the middle of the field. Could have had a huge gain. Poor execution in practically every aspect of almost every aspect of the passing game. I mean, Bentley was not sharp at all, and the receivers weren't very good. It was deplorable.
Listen, I know
in the first half.
I know the defense stiffened up in the second half, and full credit and marks given to them. That's great. But I feel like we're letting the offense off the hook here. The offense didn't play well at all for any semblance of the football game. And don't give me the fact that you were able to hold the ball for 21 plays in the fourth quarter. You couldn't get inside the red zone. You didn't even score. So in my mind, it's just, and I know these people were saying, and this is from Dr. Sterling Harris, who writes us on Twitter. People are not saying,
Hi, Dr. Sterling.
People are not saying make the carry on the starter. They're saying give him a package for a change of pace. You don't run your offense well enough to do that. I'm sorry. You do that when you're running good offense. You don't run good enough offense to have a change of pace package. You need to run your base offense better.
Was Dr. Sterling, was he nice to us?
I don't know.
Well, you just saw his note. I mean, did he say anything mean to us?
Not today.
No.
Okay.
Well,
he's not Lawrence.
But he's kind of the same.
The key point is, a lot of times people talk about what do we need to do, whatever. When you play a good team like Kentucky, you got to make plays. His receivers weren't making catches. I mean, Syracuse, their players were making catches that were just absolutely out of the realm that kept them in that game. South Carolina's receivers had their hands on the football, and I go back to that fourth quarter when Edwards has the football. You catch that ball, and maybe you go into the end zone during the drive, and you got 5 to 6 minutes
Turner
to go.
Doesn't, get the turf monster.
I hear what you're saying about that, but if Edwards catches the first quarter touchdown pass, if he catches the other catchable pass, we might not be having this discussion and all this talk about Jake Bentley. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with the offense?
And if lots of candy and nuts,
But I mean, you got to do it. Yeah. Let me do recruiting here real quick before we get to the top of the hour. Is that okay?
That's fine.
I have everybody's permission. Brian's okay with you? Make sure.
Yes.
Proceed.
I don't want to do anything that Brian is opposed to. He is our daddy.
He'll throw a flag if you do.
Proceed.
2 official visits are down for 6'9" Wildens Levesque of Brockton, Massachusetts. 3rd this weekend. That will be to USC. He's been to VCU and UMass. And this weekend, he thinks it's going to be a great visit. From what he is hearing from the Gamecocks, he's looking forward to the opportunity that he has to play in the SEC. And coaches from USC, Virginia Tech, and VCU were in to see him last week. He's expecting VCU to make a return visit tomorrow. After the USC visit, he might visit Penn State, depending on how the USC visit goes. He's also been talking with Virginia Tech about a possible visit. He plans to make his decision within the next couple of weeks. With USC, VCU, and UMass, the current top 3, UMass does have some extra appeal because it's the home state school, but that is not an overriding factor. 6'7" Christian Brown of Powder Springs, Georgia, formerly of Columbia, will take an official to Georgia this weekend. He has also taken officials to Clemson and UNLV. Told us last month that the Tigers have really not done much with him recently, so it does not look like much is happening there. Safety Dedrick Holmes, Evans, Georgia, who will take an unofficial to USC Saturday, will take one to Auburn next weekend for the Tennessee game. Florida State commit cornerback Akeem Dent of West Palm Beach, Florida, plans to visit Clemson and Alabama, according to a story in the USA Today. Receiver Jadon Hazelwood of Ellenwood, Georgia, decommitted from Georgia last night. He's been committed to them since March of 2017. He had USC and Clemson offers prior to his commitment. And 2020 linebacker Devin Curtis of Brentwood, Tennessee, made an unofficial to Clemson Saturday. He's also been to USC, Vanderbilt, and Purdue. He said the coaches at Clemson told him to keep in touch, and they will be watching him, he said. Plans to visit Virginia Tech this weekend. All right, recruiting. Now, remember, check our recruiting out regularly on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting.
M&M boys, Will Merritt, Corey Miller. I'm going to ask them, if talent is talent, can there be mistakes made by that talent?
Well, I mean, Will had no talent at Clemson, if you want to ask him about that.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We continue with Sports Talk on this Wednesday night from Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes. It's a Wednesday night. That means it is time for the M and M boys, the Pastor of Pain, Corey Miller, and the extremely talented, hardworking, grinding offensive lineman from Clemson days of yore, Will Merritt. Will, I just want to hear your voice.
Buddy.
Hey!
How we doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Glad to be back with you guys this week.
What's up, Pastor?
What's up, guys? Man, Will sounds great. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but it sounds great to hear his voice, and he's clear.
We sent him a dial-up phone so that he could converse with us clearly.
As opposed to a non-dial-up phone.
Corey, what you don't realize is I'm sitting next to Phil right now.
Yeah.
So
we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. All right. Our time is limited with you. So let's get to it. And Will, since we hadn't had you here in a little while, let's begin with you. And a lot of stuff has happened up your way, but the Tigers keep on winning. So what's your take about what they have gone through and how they survived this past Saturday?
Well, I don't know of a program in the country that had more distractions than they did. I mean, I really don't. I mean, it was the Kelly Bryant thing threw everybody for a loop, including the coaches and the players, and it was trying to decide if it was real or not real, and it was just a huge distraction for them. And I don't want to over sensationalize what they have done since then, but you know they won, and really that's what you do. You just find a way to win in advance. You know, it's kind of like the NCAA tournament. If you're trying to get to the playoffs, you win in advance. I thought the way they won was pretty gutsy. I think it shows how good this defense is, and I think it also shows that, Clemson, they weren't blowing smoke when they said that Chase Bryce was a player that could go in there and win for them. Now, hopefully you don't have that situation every week, because I don't think it'll play out that way every week. But I do think that the suspensions of players last week, losing Kelly Bryant last week, all the things that the players had to do, I thought it was a great coaching job just to keep them focused. And it didn't look that way for a while. But then when they had to make plays, they made plays and they won. And that's how you win, 27 out of your last 29 ACC games. You find a way in the fourth quarter to come out of there with a win. So, I think it was an ugly win. I hope they're not all like that. My heart cannot take those. But at the same time, you got to tip your hat to Clemson just from a standpoint of they made enough plays to come out of there. Now, it's the dust has settled on the Kelly Bryant situation. I don't like his decision. I'll just go on record as saying that. I don't like the decision that he made. But at the same time, I like Kelly Bryant. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like him as a person. I don't like the decision, but, you got to support whatever he decides to do and whatever he thinks he's going to do. But, they've moved on. Obviously, he got his transfer papers yesterday, and so it's official now. And so now there's no speculation about him returning and all that stuff. Now you just move on with what you got. And, it's going to be interesting to see how this team rallies around Trevor Lawrence for the balance of the season.
Corey, I know you're kind of watching from afar, but what Clemson has got left in terms of the quarterback personnel and what they're facing down the road, is it good enough? Is it going to be good enough for them to get to where they want to get to?
I don't know. I support Kelly Bryant, by the way. I thought he did the right thing, and, he's got to be concerned with his future going forward. And, kudos to him. I thought he was a great kid, a great player. I didn't feel like he done anything to lose his job. It seemed predetermined for me. But, going forward, Trevor Lawrence definitely got a lot of talent, but you can't replace experience. You can't replace a guy that's been in big games, won big games. That's why Kelly Bryant was in that game at the end against Texas A&M. And I don't know what to think of Trevor Lawrence. I'd say he's heavily talented, but, I don't think you can judge him on Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, and those Furman games. I want to see him in big games. I think it's a good test being on the road, even at Wake Forest and Florida State coming up. North Carolina State. So you'll have an opportunity to see how they rally. No doubt he's going to be a phenomenal football player, and I think that's a good, smart thing of running the football. And they know that they can dominate on scrimmage against Syracuse, and that was whoever call that was Elliott or Scott. They did a phenomenal job of changing things around, just pounding the football at the end, and that was a great win because it could have turned out to be a disaster. I mean, had they lost, there's no way they're getting in the college football playoffs.
Corey, to the Gamecocks, we've heard a lot of people on our phone lines this week wavering about their confidence on the Gamecocks in general, particularly where the offense is. How would you assess your confidence in where they are offensively and in particular Jake Bentley?
I mean, here's the thing with South Carolina, and I said this past week. Your dudes, your guys that you're relying on have to play great. Debo Samuel, Jake Bentley, those running backs, Brian Edwards, your best players have to play great for them to win. If they play in their best football, they can compete with anybody in the country. I believe that. But when they're just subpar or average, they're going to lose. I mean, so they don't have a lot of room for error. And when they've got these big games against Georgia and Kentucky was a good football team, I wish Gamecock fans would give them credit because they're a solid football team. You can't go play 50% and expect to win. They don't have that kind of talent across the board. But I think, and knowing this coaching staff and spending time over there, I know how they work. I know they'll do what they have to do to try to fix it. But, man, the pressure is on, and this week is going to be huge for them against Missouri at home.
Will Merritt, same question.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I tend to hate when anybody puts all the onus on one player, and Jake Bentley is a huge target because I think he's created that target a little bit. I think his mouth has created that target a little bit by talking about certain things over the years, and I think that when he creates that target with his mouth, then everybody can look back at that. And
what are you referring to there? I mean, seriously, what has Jake said that would rile up anybody?
Well, I'm just saying the way that he talks about this team is ready to go. This team is I'm gonna make these plays. I can make these throws. I can do this again. Even with the Clemson rivalry, just never again and all this other stuff. I think that he sets himself up for a little bit of a letdown when they don't play well. But here's the thing. Corey mentioned something that is exactly right. If the receivers don't catch the balls when they're hitting them right in the hands going across the middle of the field, and if the guys aren't blocking for him, and he's not a great rollout throw on the run type quarterback from what we've seen, then you gotta say, all right, the blame's got to go somewhere else too. It can't just be on him. Now I know he has not played good football this year. I mean, I get that, but I don't think that the Debo Samuels thing. I mean, everybody thought that this was his year. And I haven't seen him make any plays. And I haven't seen him, take the ball and take it to the house. I mean, you just don't see it. And I think Jake's making some really good throws that he's not being rewarded for. But once again, if you want to get back to fundamental football, ask Corey what you do. You line up and you run it. You just line up and you just run the football, and that solves a lot of your problems. I don't think South Carolina can do that. I really don't.
Well, here's a question for Corey is because when I look at South Carolina, again, you have to play with intensity, but you have to play with fun. I see a team trot out on the field, and it's like they're going to the dentist's office. Do you see the leaders in there that when they get off to a slow start, like a Swearinger used to do, and get in people's faces and say, look, this is what we got to do?
All right, hang on. We'll let you think about that one, Corey, because I know you'll get on a roll. Don't want to interrupt you. We got a break coming up. If you guys will hang on, Will, just sort of relax a little bit. Phone sounds great. Yeah, when I said it's one of those rotary dial-up phones that we sent Will, because he lives up in the country, and they're a little bit behind the times, and he needed one of those old-fashioned Southern Bell dial-up, where you used to call the operator and say, Myrna, can you connect me with? That's kind of what he's got.
But he didn't have to climb up in a pine tree.
I hope not. But Myrna put him in touch with us.
KL5. More from the M&M boys to come. Of course, it's also an SC Wild night. We'll have Captain Billy Downer in here to talk about things in the outdoors. More with Corey and Will when we come back here on Sports Talk.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
More with the M&M boys. Will Merritt, Corey Miller joining us here. Pro, if you would, re-ask your question to Monsieur Miller.
Yeah, I was wondering, because when you look at a team that makes mistakes, Corey, it's almost like it's a virus in the computer system, and you need a little shaking up to be done. Could you, from the practices you've seen, who are the leaders in that locker room, or are there any vocal leaders that can do that with this team?
Well, it has to be Bryson Allen Williams. I mean, he's been here for 5 years now. He's contributed to his defense, and he's a guy that should be able to speak and get into the face of other guys. And I did see him do that, and I was proud to see him do that when J.C. Horn came across the field and got that 15-yard penalty. And they even got a little bit of a shoving match right there, but that was okay with me because that was a senior, that was a leader. Then, hey, that's a dumb play, that's stupid, relax, composure, that type of thing. And what Will was saying yesterday is right. I mean, when guys have that giddy up, that motor, that alpha male, they got to find more of those guys. They're going to get sick and tired of getting the ball run on them and, giving up plays, and they're going to react and make some plays. And I went back and watched the tape, and I was talking to some guys about this around the stadium on yesterday, is that these are fixable things. South Carolina, it was about 8 minutes in the second quarter where they lost this game. Mm-hmm. And, when you got run fits, you hear this all the time from coaches, it's crucial, especially the way they play defense. I saw T.J. Brunson one time. He's a C-gap player. He initially was in the C-gap. When they talk about keeping your hat in that gap, well, you duck inside in the B-gap trying to do more than what they're asking you to do. Benny Snell, especially with a patient runner like he is, he bounces the ball outside. He goes up the C-gap for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Sterling gets to the line of scrimmage, had a chance for a TFL on Snell. Well, he ducks his head and reaches, he spins, he runs and scores a touchdown. Gerard Green, same thing. Gap. You got to be gap disciplined. And that's what South Carolina is right now. It's not like they're just getting, blown away. They're just making mistakes. They're in position, and they corrected that, which I was proud. If you're looking at, the Cup half full Pro, they came out the second half and really shut them down because they played more sound defense. And they got to do it consistently. Again, they don't have those dudes across the board that can say, hey, that guy can beat that guy one-on-one when it's 3rd and 5. I know he can beat up the Clowney. You can depend on that sack. They got to play extremely disciplined football. And when they make mistakes, they did the same thing against Georgia. I went back and watched that game to figure out what in the heck is going on. And honestly, it's just a quarter or so of just mistakes. And when they figure out, hey, we can't do these types of things and win, they'll play better. But I do like the chipping. I like the attitude. Play that way, but keep composure and play smart.
It's the M&M boys here on Sports Talk. The pastor of pain, Corey Miller, and Will Merritt. Will, the right guard position at Clemson, and I know people, you look at Clemson, you see all these nice, shiny parts, but the right guard position's been kind of a work in progress all season. And, of course, you have the injury to Ankrum out at right tackle, though he's apparently going to be okay to play maybe, but they can shift people around. But is that going to be an issue when they get to what they want to get to, especially in the playoffs, assuming they make the playoffs? Are teams going to be able to somehow take advantage of whatever issues they're having there?
Well, yeah, and I think, Pollard and Stewart are, going to share time again this weekend, and I think that you're trying to find one of them just to step up and just take ownership of that position. And that happens a good bit. I mean, trying to find 5 guys to have ultimate cohesion sometimes is a very daunting task. And that a lot of times that comes with a lot of snaps under your belt. But you're exactly right. I mean, there has been a weakness there, and it has cost us a lot of yardage in the running game. I mean, I wish there was a stat of how many missed blocks you could talk about and what you could have gained. But I mean, that's impossible to ascertain. But I will say you this, finding 5 guys to play together as one unit is a very difficult task. But by week 5, going into week 6, it should be put together. I mean, you should start to find those 5 core guys, and then you plug and play there. But I believe in Coach Caldwell. I believe in what he does. I believe in the way he coaches. I believe in that. I really do. And so I mean, he's proven over the years that he'll find a way to, to do it. But once again, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, you're dead on, Phil. I mean, it is what it is. You got to find somebody that's willing to take that position and say, that's mine, and I'm not giving it up. And the only way you do that is by going out and grading out well.
Go ahead, Corey.
I think somebody told Phil to ask that question. He didn't know that well. Somebody.
The hell I didn't. You came.
I
know where you are right now. You're in the Church of Corn, okay? And when you enter the Church of Corn, you enter with reverence.
I have a question that either of you can answer. What kind of sorcery does Dino Babers have on Brent Venables, and can any other team on the ACC take advantage of it? Because it seems like 2 years in a row he's had some sort of hold over Venables' defense.
I think he's a good coach. I think he's just one heck of a coach. And let me tell you something. I've only met him one time, but he's all football. Okay, that man he is all football. There's no frills. There's no. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you, I think he's just a really good coach. I think he's getting better players. But you're right. I mean, 2 years in a row, he has just taken Clemson to the shed. And last year, I don't know that they win the game if we don't lose our quarterback. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. It's still 2 years in a row that he has a chance to completely derail Clemson's season. But I agree with you. I mean, and I loved his post-game press conference. I loved it.
I do too. I love the guy. I think he's a great coach. But I think there's some issues on the back end with the Clemson defense. I love the front seven. Everybody knows about how good those guys are, but I think they can be attacked in that secondary, and I think that's what people are going to look at, because you look at Kelly Mott of A&M, the second half alone threw for 330 yards. So that's something I think Venables got to look at, because he's a coordinator that loves to bring pressure. And when you're doing that, you better make sure guys can hold up in the back. And I think they have some issues here this early part of the season. So they got to fix that on the back end, because when they play teams, like North Carolina State, that's what I'm looking at down the road. Finley is one of the best, probably going to be a first-round pick, to be able to dissect that secondary if they can hold up with the offensive line.
All right, Corey, before we let you guys go, quick comment from you about the SEC West. I know, of course, you know everything about Alabama, and you're dialed in with those guys, but you got LSU playing extremely well over there. They're going to play here pretty soon. What do you see happening over there? Auburn is still, a threat as well. Is Alabama going to skate through the West and get back to the SEC title game?
I think they will. I mean, they continue to play to the standard, and that's the theme there, the standard in which they play to. Doesn't matter who they're playing, the way the offenses would do. I mean, the problem is with Alabama, the starters only played first half. I mean, they're not even playing in the second half, and that's been through 5 games, and it's probably going to happen again this week against Arkansas. But when you look at what they have offensively, which makes them really scary, they're still good defensively. They're really good defensively. The secondary has been better than what people thought. They lost all of those guys to the NFL last year. Deontay Thompson, those guys are really good. But yeah, I think at LSU is going to be their toughest challenge. That night game probably. That's always tough. LSU got the defense to maybe try to limit Alabama, but I do think they'll win all of their games. If Alabama loses, I think the whole way through, I think they're 2 touchdown favorite of anybody they play right now in the country. And the only way they lose, they got to turn the ball over like they did against Ole Miss, make mistakes. And right now they're playing disciplined football.
Guys, great having you. Will, thank you for getting a good rotary phone. Take it back to Walmart and get your money back, and we'll go get you one for next week.
You got it. I'll trade it in down at the Bell Atlantic store real quick.
We played too nice this week. What is this? This is not a Jewish holiday, Phil. What's going on? Me and Will agree on everything.
Every day is a holiday with us. You know that. Every day is a holiday. Pastor, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you, Will. See you guys next week.
Sir.
Good to have you together. And understandable. That's like the first time we've really been able to understand Will.
Well, it's because they weren't arguing. That's why they weren't trying to talk over each other.
Well, they could hear each other now. Because Will's been using a cell phone up there, and he is kind of up there in the hills, and it's hard for the signal
what we've
to come
had
through
here
to us.
Is a failure
to communicate.
Well, we communicated well. We thank them. All right, that's going to do it for Sports Talk. But don't leave us. We've got SC Wild starring the wild and wonderful Captain Billy Downer. Coming up next here on Sports Talk.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We are here now for SC Wild on Sports Talk. Will Pelagic here and the captain, Billy Downer, as well. Good to have the captain back with us. I haven't seen you in a while.
Good to be back.
You haven't. You've aged gracefully in my absence, so that's good.
Thank you.
You haven't.
I haven't?
Yeah.
Thank you. You have been busy, though. Unfortunately, your department has had a lot on its back in the last few weeks.
We have had a busy 3 weeks here. Our state's still reeling from the effects of the water and rain from Hurricane Florence, and people will hear that and go, huh? Upstate, they didn't even get a raindrop in some cases, but Florence dumped a lot of water in northeastern South Carolina and eastern North Carolina, and the part that went into North Carolina ended up right back in our state a few days later. So, and for those that don't know, I'm sure most of the listeners do know, the PD River and the PD River system completely, that whole drainage system was just tremendous flooding.
Let me say something real quick, because I know that area extremely well, having grown up there. I've traveled that PD River Bridge on 301 hundreds of times. And, it's a pretty big drop down to the river from the bridge. And my people down there, my family, friends were telling me the bridge was underwater. I can't imagine that river being that high to come up and not only cover the bridge, but the train trestle adjacent to it.
There was a phone call that went out late in the night with Sherrall, just for example. Nobody in Sherrall thought about Lynch's River being any kind of problem. It was rising 1 foot an hour. They sent SLED and DNR officers over there to assist with that. It just came up so quickly. And then, of course, it recedes and goes away, but all that water from the PD system, the little PD, the great PD, the lumber, all that comes together, ends up dumping back into the Waccamaw. Right there before you go to, Winyah Bay. So all that water is coming to one place. And the Waccamaw is also flooded. In fact, it crested at 21.7 feet, which is above Matthew and Floyd levels. I worked Floyd back in 99. We worked 2 weeks during that flooding on Waccamaw, and it was beyond that. Currently, the PD and the little PD are at the PD system is basically at minor flood stage. That's good news for Nichols and other these small communities that have been impacted by that flooding. But as I was talking to Maria Cox with our department, minor flood stage is still flood stage.
Yeah.
And so people still have water maybe around their home, may not be in their home, but it's still surrounding them. So it was a lot of water. But the Waccamaw right now is receded to the height that it was at Matthew right now.
So it's still flooding.
Sure it is. And it's going to be that way for a week or so more. It just takes so long for that water to dump out. We're fixing to send our 5th wave of officers out. We've sent probably close to 200 officers out, and we've got 250 total in the state, but we've sent 200 officers out. Some have gone twice, been deployed twice, but they've done a lot of good work. They work with SLED, probation, pardon, parole. We worked together with them. Those guys were getting the boats with us, doing lots of different missions from security to just travel and making sure folks aren't going in unsafe water conditions. But a lot of good work. They've done over 55 rescues, 127 evacuations, and 43 animal rescues. And I got to say this, a big shout out goes to Mark Mousick, Hope Mazzell, and Maria Cox again in our land and water section with DNR. They worked around the clock. I can't tell how many times I called Maria to find out the flood stage levels. And some of them were responsible for calling and saying, Maria calling, hey, Sherrall's getting ready to flood. You need to get somebody over there. So they've done a lot of good work, a lot of late nights. But hats off to them. They did a lot of work.
Just to reinforce, what is the timetable to make sure that this is back to at least safe levels?
Well, that's a good point, because right now, Coast Guard Group Charleston, the captain of the port, has issued a temporary safety zone for all the Waccamaw and the intercoastal waterway for the last week or so here, from September the 24th through October 29th. October 19th. So that was a safe zone established for October 19th. Now, that was all the waters of the Waccamaw River along the intercoastal waterway. And pardon me if I describe this real quickly. From Winyah Bay to Little River Swing Bridge, all waters between U.S. Business Highway 501, U.S. Highway 501 in Conway, all waters of the Sandpit River, the Great Petey River from Winyah Bay northward to Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, and all waters of the Black River from its junction with the Great Petey northward to U.S. Highway 701 bridge. This closure may be lifted soon, so the water is dropping. It's still a lot of flood zone there, though. But they may lift some of this closure, but the portion of the ICW from Sandy Island back up the SportsTalkSC Swing Bridge is most likely going to stay in place because there's a lot of flooding there.
The waterway actually flooded, did it not?
The ICW? Yes. Yeah. Yes.
See, I can't imagine.
That's part of the walk, and some of the ICW is the Waccamaw River.
Yeah.
But the that waterway got up to the bottom of the swing bridge right there at SportsTalkSC.
That's just unbelievable.
They locked that bridge in place. That bridge can't even operate right now until they get it checked out when the water drops down.
So is that preventing sailboats and all from getting through?
That will prevent water traffic, which is why they've got the safety closure right now,
Gotcha.
the safety zone in place.
Yeah.
The safety zone really, for the Coast Guard to do that means that water's unsafe, the conditions are unsafe, and it keeps people from just joyriding. Because if people want to go out, get in the boat and joyride and go look at the flood, and what they don't realize is they're
damaging the water.
That's right. We talked about it last time. Their weight could damage houses further, or property.
And you might ride up on something. You might think you're in the channel, and you could be over land somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's good to hear that the water is receding. It's just going to take time.
Yes,
it is just going to. And here's the sad thing about it. In terms of the hurricane, we escaped a direct hit.
Sure,
the winds and the rain and all that. South Carolina got lucky, but like you said, what landed in North Carolina is flowing back down this way.
That's correct.
And they say water finds its own route to where it's going to go, and it's finding its way back through South Carolina.
It does, and it has. And again, people like the little small town Nichols here on the PD, little PD,
twice.
My goodness,
twice.
Gresham was flooded completely. I've hardly ever been flooded this bad, but that's the little PD.
Yeah,
but the whole PD River system is just a lot of water.
You still got people, displaced in shelters and stuff like that, and your department's helping with that as well.
Yeah, well, our main mission right now is helping on the ground, in the water, because we have the boats and the manpower to go out in the water and kind of, like I said, we're doing security patrol still. We've had manned some traffic control points, making sure people don't go down roads that are flooded still, and assist with any other things that are necessary as far as helping people go check on homes, that kind of stuff. We've done a lot of different missions there.
All right, SC Wild here on Sports Talk with the captain, Billy Downer. If you have a question or comment for the captain about anything he's talking about, 800-956-7266. Yet with all that going on, hunting seasons continue and others are coming close to us, and et cetera. What's going on in the great outdoors?
Deer season, of course, we talked about this last time. With this kind of flooding, in the past we've had major flooding. We've closed our deer season in some areas because deer get pushed out into smaller areas, the high ground. They get congregated, easy to overtake. A lot of temptation there. Unfair to the deer. So, due to the extreme high river levels and widespread flooding following Hurricane Florence, I'm quoting this, South Carolina Department of Natural Resources has declared an extension to the temporary closure for hunting within the portions of the PD and the Waccamaw River drainage systems on all game species except for alligator, doves, teal, Canada geese, hogs, and coyotes. The unrelenting catastrophic flooding and rising water levels in these river systems continue to create potential for exploitation of game species that are deprived of their normal escape routes and confined to small areas of high ground. So again, basically that's your deer season. So the whole Marion County, that whole county was closed. For more information on where that closure is still affecting, you can go to the DNR website, dnr.sc.gov. It's on the front page there. You can click on that, and it'll show you the maps of where those actual closures are. It was originally scheduled to end Friday, September 28th at 11:59 p.m., but a 6-day extension was put in place because the flooding didn't stop.
Yeah.
As we know, the flooding kept going. The closure will continue. The extension will continue through 11:59 on Thursday, October 4th. That's tomorrow. So tomorrow night. So deer season will open. I checked on this before I left. Deer season will reopen in all those affected areas Friday morning.
It's good news for Steve Tannehill. He's not going to be with us tomorrow night because he said he's going to be in a deer stand somewhere. So I don't know if he's thinking about going down there or maybe to his hunting grounds up in the Union County area. So I'm sure he's glad to hear that. And we will be back with more from the captain, Billy Downer. We're going to talk about Gator season. We're not talking about the Florida Gators. We're talking about the Gators right here in South Carolina. We'll talk about that coming up after the break. Don't go away.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And we continue with the captain, Billy Downer, here on Sports Talk SC Wild on a Wednesday night. Good to have the captain back in with us. We're talking now about hunting seasons. We talked about the deer season and what's happened in the PD low country area. Good to know that the restrictions there will be lifted as of tomorrow, so you guys can get out there. Actually, I guess it's 11:59.
It's through tomorrow night. So
tomorrow
on Friday morning,
Friday
you
morning.
wake up and hunt anywhere in the state.
Yeah.
Deer season's open everywhere right now.
Okay.
Across the state.
Are we having a good deer season?
I haven't heard a lot of people saying they're doing really well. It's still so hot. When it's hot and humid, it's just hard to deer hunt.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean deer aren't active. Locally in my area, deer have not been feeding as much in like the feed stations where people are putting corn out because it's so green still. Got a lot of food. But that will change.
Once it gets cooler, they start migrating.
And the mosquitoes after the storm have been terrible, by the way.
I can tell you that from the golf course.
I'm not even sure you can put I'm not even sure you can put out thermocell and survive it. Honestly, it's terrible.
Yeah. Is that going to ease up at some point?
Yes, as soon as we get some cold weather.
When it gets to be,
it's getting cool in the morning. The cool mornings,
less moisture.
Yeah, cooler mornings are a little bit of a relief on mosquitoes, but wow, it's still bad. If you're in any wet areas, it's bad. But Game Zone 1 right now is open primitive weapons. That's in the extreme upstate, the mountain zone. Game Zone 2, which is the majority of your upstate, Anderson, Spartanburg, all those Lawrence areas, they're in their primitive weapon season as well from October 1st to the 10th. So gun hunts will begin October 11th in those areas, and that's not far around the corner.
All right, let's go to alligator season.
I knew you wanted to rush to this.
Here in South Carolina.
Well, I want to make sure we get
make sure we get it in. It's on the agenda.
We will get it in. Thank you. Yes. So the 2018 season is open right now through October the 13th.
You didn't
That's
bring
the
us in.
second Saturday in. No, I did not. It's been a flooded condition. We'll keep working on that.
Gotcha.
We're going to keep talking about it until it actually happens.
Gotcha.
Second Saturday in October. So the season's open through the second Saturday in October. Remember, all hunters had to be selected by random computer drawing. Successful applicants were issued a permit and one tag that allows them to harvest one alligator in the designated alligator management unit.
Where is that?
There are 4 units across the state.
How
about that? And I can list those out for you, but there are basically, you've got the zone around Lake Marion, you've got the PD, you've got the lower portion of the state. So there's zones all across there. There's 4
I don't mean to put you
separate
on the
zones.
spot.
Oh, you put me on the spot. It's okay though. Hey, I'm good with it. But the 4 zones, normally you have to put it when you get drawn, you get drawn for the zone you put in for.
Gotcha.
With all the flooding, this isn't an important announcement. Folks that have alligator tags should already know this, but if you were drawn for the PD zone, obviously with all the flooding, not a lot of opportunity there to get out. You are able to take that tag and use it in any of the other 3 zones.
Quick question.
Yes.
With all the flooding down there, where have the gators gone?
They don't go away.
I mean, are they going over the banks? I mean, are they going where the water is going? Are they going in backyards?
They are not going to stay. Well, here's the thing. They're not going to stay in rushing water like that. They're not going to be in that raw rushing water. They're going to get out in slower moving water to get to the edges. So yes, alligators, because of this flooding, may show up in places that you may not have seen water before. Absolutely. That can happen.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be in rushing water because that's just not the environment for them.
Yeah.
Not that they can't swim through rushing water, but they're not going to want to be in that. They can't feed, they can't, live in that kind of condition.
So what are the rules?
So the rules, here's the deal. Alligators must be secured and brought to shore or alongside the boat before dispatching them. No shooting of free swimming alligators or basking alligators is allowed in the program. Like when you watch the down there in the Gulf, in the Cajuns, with the what's the show? When they're doing the alligator hunting, they're doing all that with Troy Landry and all those guys, and they take a rifle and shoot across the water.
Yeah.
That is not allowed here. You have to hook the gator with hook and line or with a snare, basically, hook and line, basically, or a bow and arrow, archery equipment,
Primitive weapons.
Bring it to the boat. No, not primitive weapons.
Oh,
because
okay.
that would include things you can't use.
Okay.
Hook and line and bow and arrow. That's
Gotcha.
it.
That's it.
You got to pull it to the boat. After you fight it, you got to pull alongside the boat. Once it's next to the boat, you can take it out with a handgun or a bang stick. Those are permitted.
The old bang stick.
Yep, you love the bang stick. I know that. But
the old bang stick.
So no bait, no baited hooks, set hooks, or pole hunting is allowed. You have to, cast for them, shoot with an arrow, and then pull it to the boat. That's the fun. That's the excitement of it. So alligators must be 4 foot or greater in length. Others can assist you. They have to have a South Carolina hunting license. Doesn't have to be a big game permit, but just a regular South Carolina state hunting license to be in the boat with you.
Has it been a good, outside of the areas affected by the flooding?
I've seen some pictures of some very nice 13-foot gators. So yes,
they're getting bigger. I mean, aren't they getting bigger?
Well, gators are always getting big. They're
really getting. They're like dinosaurs, aren't they? I mean, like coming back.
They're not as big as crocodiles, though. Crocodiles.
No, and they're not as aggressive as crocodiles and all. No, they're not.
I mean, I've seen videos of these gators walking across golf courses
in Florida.
Well, yeah,
they have a whole lot higher population than we do, but we do have a large population of gators, no doubt. We got a lot of gators, but this season's purpose is to control that population. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
So they continue to set the number of tags based on the amount of alligators that need to be taken.
It seems like the process for killing a gator is very hard and complex. It doesn't like
no.
I'm just saying, to get him to hook on to something like that, it seems
basically
like hard.
you ride at the water pretty much at night. For the most part, we do it at night.
Right.
You look for the eyes. You're going to cast your line across, you'll cast that treble hook cross there, hook in. You got a call?
Yes.
Let's go.
Before we hit the call, I got to drop in a breaking sports story, if that's okay with you. And this is a sad story. It's being reported in the Upstate, WSPA, and others that former Clemson running back C.J. Fuller has died. According to Easley High School officials, which is where he went to school, then he went to Clemson. Details of the death are not known. Last March, he and 2 others were arrested after they reportedly robbed someone at gunpoint.
A situation with Jadar Johnson and others as well, and the guy also from North Carolina. So just terrible situation.
Hate to hear that news. Let's quickly go to the phones. It's from Charleston. It is Tom. Tom, welcome in here on SC Wild with Captain Downer.
Thank you, Phil. And hey, my condolences. I mean, prayers to the family and everything on that. That is TJ. That's I remember that. That's terrible. Anytime anything like that happens,
sure.
Please, our prayers go out to them. I'm riding around listening to you with the wildlife, and my wife goes, "Why can't you shoot them with a long rifle on the water? Because who wants to get that close to them?" And I just wanted to say, because a long rifle, and correct me if I'm wrong, it will skip off the water, and you don't know where it's going. That's why you have to pull the gator up to the boat. Because I gator hunt, and I just want to iterate that. That's why we bring the gator in, and then that's when we discard the gator when it's close to us.
Tom, that's absolutely right, because if you take a high-power rifle in the water, it's going to skip like glass, and 30-06 can go up to 3 miles. So I don't know what's 3 miles away from me, and I don't want to be shooting or be responsible for that. So folks need to be aware of that. It's a great point. Got to be careful. That's why we don't allow people to take rifles and just shoot across the water. 22. Little old 22 go a mile and a half.
None of that when it comes to getting these gators.
No, got to use hook and line and pull it up to the boat, being full control of the gator.
And then what?
And dispatch
bang stick
or handgun.
Now, how many shots to the head does it take with the bang stick usually?
1. Well placed. 1.
What if 1 is not enough?
Another.
What if 1 doesn't do the trick?
It better if you're dealing.
I mean, we do have stories of Mr. Gator not exactly going quietly into the night, right?
Absolutely,
and jumping into the boat. Well, that's having a little meal.
What if that?
No, not having a meal.
Tebow lives forever.
He hasn't had a meal. That hasn't happened.
Captain, great seeing you.
Good to see you, sir.
Congratulations to you and your staff, DNR. We all appreciate the hard work you guys have put in. Guys and gals, everybody.
Absolutely. Everybody's been putting their time in.
We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
That'll do it. Sports Talk SC Wild. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Brian. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.